would have thought we would get a farming montage, but it made me curious about like the wheat itself. What was that? What was that set? Was it practical? Was it actually planted wheat? I'm just very, very curious about the grain scene.
Yeah, we planted. Yeah, that was like we were just talking about. It was one of the biggest challenges of the movie because we had planted those acres and acres of wheat, and we had them to be harvested in the schedule at a certain time, but the wheat had its own ideas about when it was going to be ready. And so we had to scramble to figure out other stuff to shoot while it was getting golden and all of its things. And so, yeah, that was a thing that I hadn't anticipated as far as the difficulty of being a farmer and a filmmaker were difficult. Yeah, but it was all big practical wheat fields that we cut down. Yeah, and the actors had to learn how to harvest it, and it was a lot of wheat knowledge.
That's interesting. Where does the wheat go after that? Do you just like donate it then?
We gave it, there was a guy who was, it went to his cows, and then some of it, I think we made beer out of some of it. I can't remember, but yeah, it all got used.
Rebel Moon, Rebel Brew. I like that.
It's kind of true.
What is that? What is a day of filming, like harvesting wheat versus like those giant action sequences? How does that feel playing out?
I think they kind of feel how they probably would have felt for the characters, humbling. You know, you imagine like you've fought in battles, put your life at risk, you know, and coming up against it, and you're being outworked by people half your size who know what they're doing with experience. And I think that's kind of what connects these two very different worlds of the warriors and the community, is this mutual respect for the need for both of them to survive. And I can just tell you, it was just really hot. There was this moment where we'd have a break and we'd go to sit down and eat. We ate every time. It wasn't fake eating. And then have to refill, like, remember the little noodles and the meats and the cheeses? We just ended up, because we were just so exhausted. We had to wear snake guards to make sure we weren't bitten. So it was, again, humbling. And I got to learn a lot. You know, I kind of feel now that I could be like an honorary Amishman. You know what I mean? After that, like, I feel like I know enough where I might be able to survive in an agricultural culture.
We had amazing relationships outside and on screen, and we got together and we got to know each other on a deeper level. I mean, this was a long time that we had to spend with each other, and honestly, we enjoyed each other's company so much, and we had so many laughters on set. I remember Duna, Charlie, and Staz, and I and Michiel, we were shooting that sequence in Dagus in movie number 1. And I remember the giggles we were having on set because we were having that long sequence when Duna was doing her fight.
Yes.
And we're in the background. So I mean, it's just like, just camaraderie and just, I mean, sometimes it just really, I mean, a lot of the time I enjoy so much my colleagues and people that I work with, and this was a good one.
I mean, the discussions with Zack were completely invaluable. Firstly, we had a really detailed Zoom before I got the phone call, you know, to ask me to do it, in which Zack was able to explain who this person is and who he was as a younger person, you know, but that you don't see in these movies. And he's an outsider in this universe, grew up in much more humble beginnings, and as such felt as though he was disinherited something. He knew that the mother world existed and he could tell how they were living. You know, similarly, you know, in Veldt, you know, we've got very more humble, modest people, but that are happily living in that gorgeous community. Balisarius was living in a disinherited, dispossessed environment. I was like, I want that. I want what they want. And systematically, through extreme intellect and manipulation, manages to find his way there. And then not only that, he finds himself on the Senate and then ultimately taking the place of the king. An unbelievable ascension to power. So thankfully, Zack was able to give me that completely encyclopedic version of his life that hopefully we'll get to see on our screens and I'll actually get to fully play, maybe. But thankfully I had that knowledge going into these films, and although the story is peppered throughout I knew what my timeline was. So I was thankful to Zack for that and for his teeming imagination in filling those gaps for me.
And without those gaps, without Zack filling those gaps in for you, the audience wouldn't be saying like, I want to know more. Like, what's in the middle? And it's because you're aware of them, and the audience isn't. That's where it's like, I need to find out. Yeah. Whereas with a less informed director, they would have just given you those scenes and been like, work it out. You're an actor.
Yeah. Which happens.
Or just do that scene.
Yeah.
You know? So shout out to Zack.
You stand between us and annihilation.